What if the key to true power lies not in reacting, but in choosing not to react at all? It's a question that might seem counterintuitive at first, especially in a world that often tells us to stand our ground, to fight back, or to prove ourselves at every turn. But Stoicism, the ancient philosophy practiced by some of history's greatest thinkers, offers a radically different approach. It teaches us that true strength comes not from engaging with every external force, but from the deliberate act of ignoring what doesn't serve us. Consider the words of Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This simple yet profound idea is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. It's not about suppressing emotions or avoiding challenges. It's about recognizing what's within your control and letting go of what isn't. In this video, we'll explore how the Stoic practice of ignoring, whether it's external distractions, criticism, or negativity, can become a source of immense personal power. By focusing on what truly matters and detaching from what doesn't, we can cultivate a deeper sense of clarity, resilience, and inner strength. So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the noise of the world or wondered how to rise above it, this is for you. Let's uncover the Stoic secrets to turning indifference into empowerment. Imagine your attention as a spotlight. It can only shine on so much at once, and where you choose to direct it shapes your entire experience of life. This is a truth the Stoics understood deeply. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." At the heart of this idea is the concept of selective attention, focusing only on what is within our control and letting go of the rest. Think about it this way. In today's world, we're bombarded with endless distractions. Social media, for instance, is a constant stream of noise, opinions, debates, and updates that demand our focus but rarely add value to our lives. The Stoics would argue that much of what we give our attention to is not only beyond our control but also irrelevant to our growth and peace of mind. Seneca put it perfectly when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, the more we allow external chaos to occupy our minds, the more we create unnecessary suffering for ourselves. So how do we break free from this cycle? It starts with guarding your mind like a fortress. Seneca advised, "You must exercise control over your mind, for if you do not, it will control you." This means consciously deciding what deserves your attention and what doesn't. It's not about shutting out the world entirely, but about being intentional with where you direct your energy. When you filter out the noise, you create space for what truly matters: your goals, your relationships, and your inner peace. Now take a moment to reflect. What distractions are you giving too much attention to? Is it the endless scroll of social media, the opinions of others, or perhaps worries about things you can't change? And more importantly, how can you redirect your focus toward what's truly within your control? This simple shift in perspective can be a game changer, helping you reclaim your power and live with greater clarity and purpose. Criticism only has power if you let it. This isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that external opinions, whether praise or criticism, fall into the category of things we can't control. They called these things indifferent, meaning they're neither inherently good nor bad. What truly matters is how we choose to respond. Think about Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history. As Roman emperor, he faced constant political opposition and harsh criticism. Yet, his writings reveal a man deeply committed to focusing on his own virtue and actions, rather than being swayed by the opinions of others. He didn't let the noise of external judgment dictate his inner peace. Epictetus, another prominent Stoic, put it plainly, If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, the harm we feel from criticism isn't caused by the words themselves, but by our reaction to them. This is a profound shift in perspective. By choosing to ignore criticism not out of arrogance, but out of a commitment to what truly matters, we build resilience. We become untouchable, not because we're invincible, but because we refuse to give others' words power over us. So here's a question to reflect on. How do you typically respond to criticism? Do you let it linger, replaying the words in your mind, or do you acknowledge it and move forward? What might change if you chose to see criticism as indifferent, something that can only affect you if you allow it? The Stoic approach isn't about dismissing all feedback, it's about recognizing that your worth and strength come from within, not from the fleeting opinions of others. Let's talk about one of the most transformative ideas in Stoicism, the principle of detachment from outcomes. At its core, this is about shifting your focus from what you can't control, the results, to what you can control, your effort and your attitude. Think about it like this: you're preparing for a job interview. You've done all the research, practiced your answers, and even picked out the perfect outfit. But no matter how much you prepare, you can't control whether the hiring manager will choose you. That's not up to you. What is up to you is how thoroughly you prepare and how confidently you present yourself. This is where Stoicism steps in. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. What he's saying is profound. When you accept that outcomes are beyond your control, you free yourself from the anxiety of trying to manipulate them. Instead of worrying about whether you'll get the job, you focus on doing your best in the interview. That shift in mindset doesn't just reduce stress, it empowers you to act with clarity and purpose regardless of the result. So how do you start practicing this kind of detachment? One practical step is journaling. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on what you did well and what you could improve, not in terms of outcomes, but in terms of effort. Did you give your best to the task at hand? Did you stay true to your values? Over time, this practice helps you internalize the idea that your worth isn't tied to external results. It's tied to your commitment to showing up and doing the work. Now, here's a question to consider. What outcomes are you overly attached to in your own life? Maybe it's a promotion, a relationship, or even a personal goal. How might your perspective change if you focused less on the result and more on the effort you're putting in? Sometimes letting go isn't about giving up, it's about finding peace in the process. Silence, often underestimated, can be one of the most powerful tools in our arsenal. The Stoics, like Seneca, understood this deeply. They believed that silence was not just the absence of words, but a deliberate choice, a form of restraint that could protect our peace and preserve our energy. Seneca once wrote, "The less I deserve good fortune, the more I shall keep silent." This wasn't about avoiding conflict out of fear, but about recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the wisest response is no response at all. Think about a heated online debate you've witnessed or even participated in. How often does it lead to anything productive? More often than not, it devolves into a cycle of defensiveness and frustration, leaving everyone involved drained. Now, imagine stepping back and choosing silence instead. By refusing to engage, you reclaim your time, your focus, and your emotional well-being. You rise above the noise, untangling yourself from the chaos. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, put it this way: if someone tries to provoke you and you choose not to be provoked, you win. This isn't about letting others have the last word. It's about refusing to let their words control you. Silence, in this sense, becomes an act of strength. It's a way of saying, "I won't be pulled into this. I choose peace over conflict." So, let me ask you, when have you regretted speaking? Maybe it was in the heat of the moment, or perhaps you felt pressured to defend yourself. Now, think about how silence might have served you better. Could it have given you clarity? Could it have saved you from unnecessary stress? Silence isn't about giving up or giving in, it's about taking control. It's about recognizing that your energy is precious and choosing where to invest it. In a world that often rewards loudness and quick reactions, silence can feel counterintuitive, but it's precisely in those moments of restraint that we find our greatest strength. The next time you're tempted to engage in an argument that doesn't serve you, consider the power of silence. It might just be the most powerful thing you say. Why do we seek approval from others? It's a question that's been asked for centuries, yet it feels as relevant today as it did in ancient times. The truth is, many of us are conditioned to measure our worth by the opinions of others. But Stoicism offers a radical alternative, the idea that true power and peace come from within, not from the applause or approval of the outside world. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. That's the freedom Stoicism invites us to explore. Take Seneca, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers. Despite being a trusted advisor to Emperor Nero, Seneca often rejected public acclaim and recognition. He saw how fleeting and unreliable external validation could be. Instead, he chose to focus on cultivating his inner virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. For Seneca, the approval of others was like a passing breeze. It could change direction at any moment, but the approval of oneself, grounded in self-awareness and integrity, was unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, another towering figure in Stoic philosophy, echoed this sentiment. In his private writings, he reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For Marcus, contentment wasn't found in the cheers of the crowd or the accolades of society. It was found in the quiet moments of self-reflection, in the ability to live in alignment with one's principles, regardless of external circumstances. So how can we begin to shift our focus from external validation to self-validation? One powerful tool is journaling. By regularly reflecting on your thoughts, actions, and values, you can build a deeper understanding of yourself. Try prompts like, "What do I truly value, independent of others' opinions?" or "When do I feel most at peace with myself?" These questions can help you uncover the roots of your need for external approval and guide you toward greater self-awareness. What would it feel like to stop seeking validation from others? It might feel strange at first, even uncomfortable, but over time, it could also feel liberating, like stepping out of a cage you didn't realize you were in. The Stoics remind us that our worth isn't determined by the opinions of others, but by the integrity of our own character, and that's a source of power no one can take away from you. When we react impulsively, we give away our power. Think about it. How often do we let a single moment of frustration or anger dictate our actions, only to regret it later? The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that reacting without thought diminishes our control and leaves us vulnerable to external forces. Instead, they advocated for a simple yet transformative practice: pausing. Taking a moment to step back, breathe, and assess the situation before responding. Picture this: you're sitting at your desk, scrolling through your inbox, when suddenly you come across a harsh email. It's rude, accusatory, and it feels like a personal attack. Your first instinct might be to fire back with an equally cutting response, but here's where the Stoic approach comes in. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause. You remind yourself that this email doesn't define you, it's just words on a screen, and your reaction is entirely within your control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it perfectly: "No man is free who is not master of himself." What he's saying is that true freedom comes from mastering our impulses, not letting them master us. When we resist the urge to react, we reclaim our power. We choose how we respond rather than being swept away by emotion. So, what triggers your impulsive reactions? Is it criticism, frustration, or maybe even fear? Whatever it is, the next time you feel that surge of emotion, try this. Pause, take a deep breath, ask yourself, does this truly deserve my energy? What will happen if I respond with clarity instead of anger? That moment of reflection can change everything. It's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about channeling them thoughtfully, so you act from a place of strength rather than weakness. Fear of judgment keeps us small. It whispers in our ears, telling us to hold back, to stay quiet, to avoid standing out. But the Stoics saw judgment for what it truly is, an external factor, something entirely outside our control. And because it's outside our control, they believed it was indifferent, neither good nor bad in itself. What matters is how we respond to it. Think about public speaking, something many of us dread. The fear isn't about the act of speaking, it's about what others might think. Will they laugh? Will they judge me? Stoicism teaches us to reframe this. Instead of worrying about the opinions of others, focus on what's within your power, your preparation, your effort, your intention. When you shift your attention inward, the fear of judgment loses its grip. You start to realize that the opinions of others are fleeting, often irrelevant to your own growth and purpose. Seneca, one of Stoicism's great thinkers, put it simply, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The fear of judgment is often worse than the judgment itself. Most of the time, people are too preoccupied with their own lives to scrutinize yours. Even if they do, their opinions don't define you. What defines you is how you choose to act in spite of that fear. So, here's a question to reflect on. What would you do if you weren't afraid of being judged? Would you speak up more, pursue that dream you've been putting off, take a risk that scares you? When you let go of the fear of judgment, you create space for confidence to grow. You step into your power not because others approve, but because you've decided to live authentically, guided by your own values rather than the fleeting opinions of others. Picture this, you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. The cars ahead aren't moving, your phone is buzzing with messages, and frustration starts to bubble up. But what if, instead of letting that frustration take over, you could simply let it go? This is where the Stoic practice of indifference comes into play. At its core, indifference doesn't mean not caring, it means recognizing what's truly within your control and letting go of what isn't. The Stoics divided the world into two categories, things we can control and things we cannot. Our thoughts, actions, and decisions fall into the first category. External events like the weather, other people's opinions, or, yes, traffic delays fall into the second. Indifference in this context is about focusing your energy on what you can influence and releasing the tension over what you can't. Take that traffic example. You can't control the cars ahead of you or the timing of the lights, but you can control how you respond. Instead of letting frustration build, you might choose to use the time to listen to a podcast you enjoy, reflect on your day, or simply take a deep breath and accept the situation as it is. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce stress, it gives you back a sense of agency in moments that might otherwise feel chaotic. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, some things are in our control and others are not. He urged us to focus on our own actions and attitudes, rather than wasting energy on external circumstances. By practicing indifference, we free ourselves from the emotional weight of things we can't change, allowing us to respond with clarity and calm. So here's a question for you. What external events in your life could use a dose of Stoic indifference? Is it the unpredictability of other people's behavior, the pressure of societal expectations, or even something as small as a rainy day ruining your plans? Recognizing what's outside your control isn't about giving up, it's about reclaiming your power to choose how you respond, and that's where true strength lies. Negativity is like a fire. It grows the more you feed it. Think about it. When someone says something hurtful or when a situation feels overwhelming, our instinct is often to react, to fight back, or to dwell on it. But the Stoics understood something profound. Negativity thrives on attention. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote extensively about maintaining inner peace amidst external chaos. He believed that our power lies not in controlling the world around us, but in controlling our response to it. In his private journal, he reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're dealing with a toxic relationship, someone who constantly criticizes you, undermines your confidence, or drains your energy. The more you engage, the more it escalates. But what if, instead of responding, you simply chose not to react? Seneca, another Stoic thinker, put it beautifully. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. By refusing to give negativity the attention it craves, you take away its power. You rise above it, not through confrontation, but through silence and detachment. This doesn't mean ignoring the problem entirely. It means recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. When you stop feeding the fire, it eventually burns out on its own. So take a moment to reflect. What negativity are you giving too much energy to, and how can you ignore it? By practicing this Stoic principle, you reclaim your power and create space for peace and clarity in your life. The strength of non-reaction is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, but it's often misunderstood. At its core, non-reaction isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent. It's about recognizing that your response to any situation is a choice, one that can either empower or weaken you. The Stoics believed that emotional reactions are not inevitable. They're optional, and by choosing not to react impulsively, you reclaim control over your mind and your life. Take the example of Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher. When faced with public ridicule and provocation, Cato remained unshaken. His calmness wasn't a sign of passivity, it was a deliberate act of strength. By refusing to engage with the chaos around him, he demonstrated that true power lies not in reacting, but in choosing how or whether to respond at all. This kind of composure doesn't come naturally, it's cultivated through practice and discipline. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoics, put it best: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our greatest battles are often fought within. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself the space to act with intention rather than impulse. So, how can you practice non-reaction in your own life? Start small. The next time someone cuts you off in traffic or says something that irks you, take a moment to breathe. Ask yourself, does this situation truly require a reaction, or can I choose to let it pass without giving it energy? Over time, this practice builds resilience and clarity, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with a calm, steady mind. Non-reaction isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about rising above it, and that, in itself, is a profound form of strength. The past has a peculiar way of gripping us, doesn't it? Whether it's a missed opportunity, a painful mistake, or a moment we wish we could rewrite, dwelling on what's already happened can feel like carrying a heavy weight we were never meant to bear. The Stoics, however, offer a different perspective, one that frees us from this burden. They remind us that the past is unchangeable. No amount of worry, regret, or longing can alter it. And yet, so much of our energy is spent replaying these moments in our minds, as if by doing so, we might somehow change the outcome. But here's the truth. Clinging to the past doesn't just drain us, it weakens our ability to live fully in the present. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it bluntly, "What's done is done. Why torment yourself over what you cannot control?" It's a simple but profound idea. The past is outside your control, and worrying about it only robs you of the power you have right now, the power to act, to choose, to shape the present moment. Imagine standing in a river trying to hold onto the water that's already flowed past you. No matter how tightly you grasp, it slips through your fingers. The past is like that water, gone, untouchable and irrelevant to what you can do in this very moment. Think about a time when you regretted something deeply. Maybe it was a decision you made, words you wish you could take back, or a chance you didn't take. Now ask yourself, has dwelling on that regret ever changed it? Has it ever brought you peace or clarity? More often than not, the answer is no. What it does do, though, is keep you stuck in a loop of frustration and helplessness. The Stoics would argue that this is where we lose our power, not in the event itself, but in our refusal to let it go. So, what if you could release that weight? What if, instead of carrying the past with you, you chose to focus on what's right in front of you? The present moment is where your power lies. It's the only space where you can take action, where you can make choices that shape your future. Letting go of the past doesn't mean forgetting it or pretending it never happened. It means accepting it for what it is, a story that's already been written, and choosing to write the next chapter with intention and clarity. Take a moment to reflect. What past event are you holding on to? How might releasing it allow you to step more fully into the present? The Stoics teach us that true strength comes not from clinging to what's behind us, but from embracing what's here right now. And that's where your power begins. How much of your energy is spent worrying about the future? It's a question worth asking, because for many of us, the unknown can feel like a heavy weight. But here's the thing, Stoicism doesn't tell us to ignore the future entirely. It teaches us to approach it differently. Instead of being consumed by anxiety, the Stoics emphasize preparation. Think of it this way, you don't stop building a house because a storm might come. You build it strong enough to withstand whatever comes your way. Preparation, not panic, is the key. Take something practical like planning for retirement. It's wise to save and invest, to take steps today that will benefit you tomorrow. But here's where the Stoic mindset comes in. While you take those actions, you don't let the fear of the unknown. What if the market crashes? What if I don't save enough? Take over your present moment. You do what you can, and then you let go. Seneca put it perfectly when he said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." So what does that look like in practice? It means you plan, but you don't obsess. You act, but you don't agonize. And most importantly, you focus on what's within your control right now, rather than letting the uncertainty of tomorrow rob you of today's peace. Here's a question to consider. What future worries can you let go of today? What's one thing you've been overthinking that you could release, even just a little, to make room for the present? Because the truth is, the future will always be uncertain, but how we choose to face it, with calm preparation or restless anxiety, is entirely up to us. Think about this. What if everything happening around you, every event, every situation, every unexpected twist, was completely neutral? What if it wasn't inherently good or bad, but simply? This is the Stoic view of external events. They believe that life's circumstances are neither positive nor negative on their own. It's our judgments, our interpretations, that give them power. And this is where the real work begins. Take losing a job, for example. At first glance, it might feel like a disaster, a blow to your identity, your security, your future. But a Stoic would see it differently. They'd ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? Instead of seeing it as a failure, they'd reframe it as an opportunity to reassess, to redirect, and to build something even stronger. It's not about ignoring the difficulty, it's about choosing how to respond to it. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, put it this way: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the challenges we face aren't roadblocks, they're stepping stones. They're the very things that push us to adapt, to innovate, and to become more resilient. So here's the question for you. What's a challenge you're facing right now? How can you shift your perspective to see it not as a setback, but as a chance to grow? Because the truth is, the way you choose to frame your struggles determines their power over you. And when you start to see every obstacle as an opportunity, you unlock a kind of strength that can't be taken away. Not every battle is worth fighting. This is a core principle of Stoicism, and it's one that can transform how you approach conflict in your life. The Stoics believed that much of the turmoil we experience comes from engaging in unnecessary battles. Those petty arguments, trivial disagreements, or moments of pride that don't truly serve us. Instead of reacting to every provocation, they taught the importance of discernment, of choosing where to direct your energy and where to simply let go. Think about a common scenario, a family argument over something as small as who left the dishes in the sink. It's easy to let frustration take over, to dig in your heels and demand to be heard. But the Stoics would ask, is this really worth your peace of mind? Is this the hill you want to die on? By stepping back, by choosing not to engage, you reclaim your power. You decide that your inner calm is more valuable than winning an argument that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter. Epictetus put it plainly: any person capable of angering you becomes your master. When you let go of the need to win every little battle, you take control of your emotions rather than letting them control you. This doesn't mean avoiding all conflict. Stoicism isn't about passivity or suppressing your feelings. It's about wisdom, about recognizing which battles are worth your energy and which ones only drain you. The key is to ask yourself, does this situation align with my values? Is it something I can control, or is it outside my influence? If it's the latter, the Stoics would say it's better to focus on what you can change, your own perspective, your own response, rather than wasting energy on things you can't. So take a moment to reflect. What conflicts in your life can you choose to ignore for the sake of peace? What small battles are you fighting that might not even matter a week from now? By practicing this kind of discernment, you not only preserve your energy but also cultivate a sense of inner strength. You become someone who doesn't get swept up in every storm, but instead stands firm, choosing where to invest your time and attention. And that, in itself, is a profound kind of power. True power doesn't come from external achievements or the approval of others. It begins within. The Stoics believed that the most profound strength we can develop is the kind that comes from mastering our own minds and emotions. This inner focus isn't about ignoring the world around us. It's about directing our attention inward, where we have the most control. By cultivating self-discipline and reflection, we build a foundation of resilience that no external circumstance can easily shake. Take Marcus Aurelius, for example. As a Roman emperor, he faced immense pressures, wars, political turmoil, and the weight of leadership. Yet he didn't allow these challenges to dictate his inner state. Instead, he turned to his meditations, writings that were never meant for public eyes but were his way of grounding himself. In one passage he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This wasn't just philosophy for him, it was a daily practice of returning to his center, no matter how chaotic the world became. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, echoed this idea when he said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Self-mastery," he argued, is the key to lasting power. When we stop being pulled in every direction by external distractions, whether it's the opinions of others or the chaos of daily life, we reclaim our ability to act with intention and clarity. Inner focus becomes our anchor, allowing us to navigate challenges with calm and purpose. So, how can you strengthen your inner focus today? It starts with small, deliberate actions. Maybe it's setting aside a few minutes each day to reflect, like Marcus Aurelius did. Or perhaps it's practicing self-discipline in moments when you'd rather give in to distraction or frustration. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. By consistently tuning into your inner world, you'll find that true power isn't something you seek outside yourself. It's already within you, waiting to be uncovered. Why do we compare ourselves to others? It's a question that's as old as humanity itself, yet it feels more pressing than ever in today's world of constant connection. Scrolling through social media, it's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. You see their successes, their perfect moments, and suddenly your own progress feels small, insignificant. But here's the thing: comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your focus, and your ability to grow. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, and their wisdom still holds true today. For the Stoics, comparison wasn't just unhelpful, it was a distraction, a way of losing sight of what truly matters, your own journey. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it plainly: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, stop worrying about how you stack up against others. Your path is yours alone, and the only standard that matters is the one you set for yourself. When you're constantly looking over your shoulder at what someone else is doing, you're not moving forward, you're standing still. Think about it this way: when you're scrolling through social media and feeling that pang of envy, what are you actually doing? You're giving your energy to something outside of your control. You can't dictate someone else's success, their appearance, or their lifestyle. What you can control is how you respond. Instead of letting comparison drain you, use that moment as a reminder to refocus. Ask yourself, what can I do today to move closer to my own goals? This shift in perspective is powerful. It takes you from feeling powerless to feeling purposeful. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from focusing on what's within your control, your actions, your choices, your mindset. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you free up mental space to invest in your own growth. It's not about ignoring others entirely. It's about recognizing that their journey has no bearing on yours. Your worth isn't determined by how you measure up to someone else. It's defined by the effort you put into becoming the best version of yourself. So how can you start breaking free from the comparison trap? Begin by setting clear personal goals. Write them down, make them specific. Then, every time you catch yourself comparing, redirect that energy toward your own progress. Remind yourself that growth is a process, not a competition. And when you need inspiration, turn to the Stoics. Their timeless advice is a reminder that the only race you're running is the one against your former self. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a simple yet profound practice: acceptance. But here's the twist: acceptance isn't about giving up or resigning yourself to fate. It's about empowerment. By embracing reality as it is without resistance or complaint, you reclaim your ability to respond with clarity and strength. The Stoics believed that fighting against what you cannot change only wastes energy and creates unnecessary suffering. Instead, they taught us to meet life head-on, exactly as it presents itself. Think about it this way: imagine receiving a difficult health diagnosis. It's natural to feel fear, anger, or even denial. But the Stoic approach would be to acknowledge the reality of the situation without letting emotions cloud your judgment. This doesn't mean you stop caring or seeking solutions. It means you stop fighting the unchangeable. By accepting what is, you free yourself to focus on what you can control: your attitude, your actions, and how you choose to move forward. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, put it this way: accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. What he's saying here is profound. Acceptance isn't passive. It's an active choice to engage with life fully, even when it's hard. It's about finding peace in the midst of chaos and strength in the face of uncertainty. So let's bring this back to you. What in your life are you resisting that you might need to accept? Is it a relationship that hasn't gone as planned, a career setback, or even a personal limitation? Whatever it is, remember this: acceptance isn't about defeat, it's about stepping into your power. When you stop fighting reality, you create space to grow, adapt, and thrive. And that's where true strength lies. Modern life is full of noise, both literal and metaphorical. From the constant buzz of notifications on our phones to the endless stream of opinions and expectations from others, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. The Stoics, however, offer a timeless solution: the practice of tuning out distractions to focus on what truly matters. This isn't about shutting out the world entirely, but rather about choosing where to direct your attention. Imagine your mind as a calm lake. When you let every ripple of external noise disturb it, the water becomes chaotic, making it hard to see clearly. But when you choose to ignore the unnecessary, the surface settles and clarity emerges. Consider the modern example of notifications. Every ping, buzz, or pop-up demands your attention, pulling you away from deeper, more meaningful tasks. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the value of solitude and quiet reflection. He wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." What he meant was that living intentionally, free from the distractions that pull us in 100 directions, requires strength and discipline. It's not just about physical solitude, but about creating mental space to focus on what's within your control. So, what noise can you ignore to create more clarity in your life? Is it the endless scroll of social media, the pressure to always be available, or the opinions of others that don't align with your values? By consciously choosing to disconnect, even for a short time, you reclaim your attention and energy. This practice isn't about rejecting the world, it's about reclaiming your ability to engage with it on your own terms. And in doing so, you become more powerful, not because you control everything around you, but because you control how you respond to it. Think about this: when you ignore the noise, you create room for what truly matters. It's a small shift, but one that can transform how you approach your day, your relationships, and your goals. The next time you feel pulled in too many directions, ask yourself, is this noise worth my attention, or is it something I can let go of to find greater focus and peace? Ignoring distractions isn't just about turning away. It's about building the mental muscle to stay focused, no matter what's pulling at your attention. This is where discipline comes in, and for the Stoics, discipline wasn't just a tool, it was a way of life. They understood that ignoring what doesn't serve you requires more than momentary willpower. It demands consistent, intentional practice. It's like training for a marathon. You don't just wake up one day and run 26 miles. You build endurance over time, step by step, mile by mile. In the same way, the Stoics believed that mental resilience is cultivated through daily habits of self-control and focus. Take Epictetus, for example. Born into slavery, he faced unimaginable challenges, yet he rose to become one of the most influential Stoic philosophers. His teachings emphasized that self-control was the key to freedom, not freedom from external circumstances, but freedom within them. He famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." For Epictetus, ignoring distractions wasn't about suppressing emotions or pretending the outside world didn't exist. It was about mastering your internal reactions so you could remain steady even when chaos surrounded you. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, echoed this idea in his personal writings. He reminded himself daily that disciplined thought was his greatest weapon. In Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound insight speaks to the heart of what it means to ignore distractions with purpose. It's not about avoiding life's challenges, it's about choosing where to direct your energy and attention, even when the world feels overwhelming. So think about this for a moment. What area of your life requires more discipline to ignore distractions? Is it the constant pull of social media, the noise of other people's opinions, or perhaps your own self-doubt? The Stoics would tell you that the first step isn't to eliminate these distractions entirely. That's nearly impossible. Instead, it's about practicing the discipline to observe them without letting them dictate your actions. Over time, this practice builds the kind of mental resilience that allows you to stay focused on what truly matters, and that in itself is a form of power. Freedom is not about escaping the world around us, it's about releasing our attachment to it. The Stoics believe true freedom comes from within, from the ability to detach ourselves from the noise of external pressures. Think about it. How often do we let societal expectations, the opinions of others, or the relentless pursuit of approval dictate our choices? These forces can feel like chains, binding us to a life that doesn't align with our deepest values. But what if the key to breaking free lies not in changing the world, but in changing how we respond to it? Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. In other words, the more we focus on what we can't control, other people's opinions, societal norms, or even the outcomes of our efforts, the less free we become. But when we choose to ignore these external forces, we reclaim our power. We stop letting the outside world dictate our inner peace. Take a modern example: societal expectations. From a young age, we're told what success looks like: the right job, the right lifestyle, the right image. But chasing these external markers of success often leaves us feeling empty, as if we're living someone else's life. The Stoic approach: ignore the noise. Instead of conforming to what society expects, focus on what truly matters to you. When you stop seeking validation from the outside world, you'll find a deeper sense of freedom, one that comes from living authentically on your own terms. So here's a question to reflect on. What external pressures are you holding on to? Is it the need to please others, the fear of judgment, or the constant comparison to those around you? Imagine how much lighter you'd feel if you chose to let those pressures go. Freedom isn't about having no responsibilities or challenges. It's about releasing the weight of what doesn't truly serve you, so you can live with clarity, purpose, and peace. The choice is yours. What will you ignore to feel more free? As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've explored together. The power of ignoring distractions, criticism, and negativity isn't just about turning away from the noise, it's about reclaiming your focus and cultivating inner strength. Stoicism teaches us that true power doesn't come from controlling the world around us, but from mastering ourselves. When we choose to ignore what doesn't serve us, we create space for clarity, growth, and resilience. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our greatest battles are often fought within. The ability to rise above external chaos and stay grounded in our values is where real power lies. So, here's a question to leave you with. What will you choose to ignore to become more powerful? What distractions, opinions, or negative influences are holding you back from stepping into your full potential? The answer to that question might just be the key to unlocking a stronger, more focused version of yourself. If this perspective resonates with you, Consider subscribing for more insights on how Stoic wisdom can help you navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. Remember, the journey to mastering yourself begins with a single, intentional choice. Let's make that choice together.